What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one-armed madman, and with me today we've got Kelby Smith. Kelby, it's a pleasure to have you. How are we doing today?
What's up, my brother? Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here on your show. I love the name One Armed Madman.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it originated in a blog. I'm a big Ozzy Osbourne fan, so it was kind of a play off of Diary of a Madman.
Crazy Train was my favorite growing up. I
He's
love
the
Randy
best.
Rhodes. I
He was
loved
the best.
Ozzy.
Yeah, he
All
was the
that.
best. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into what you doing?
Bro, purely by accident, 2008. I'm a real estate broker by trade. I've done mid-sized businesses my whole life as president, whatever. And I, as a broker, we ran out of money like every other bank and money lender in '08. And um, I started falling hard and I had to reduce size of offices, let hundreds of people go. It was rough. And I ended up, uh, uh, I ended up hiring a guy, and he was just this conspiracy theory nut jobber, and which I've slowly taken on over the last 15 years. And I always say it's only a conspiracy until it's true.
Yeah.
And most conspiracies seem to be coming true at this point. But he told me I needed to go to a seminar. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to that seminar. And he's like, no, you're gonna go. And he like yelled at me. And I actually give him all the credit now. I wrote a book. I'll tell you all about it in a second. But he's in the Ford, and he changed the scope of my life. It was just one guy's voice that got under my skin, and I started studying some things relating to what our country was. And somebody said that our country's a corporation. I'm like, no, our country's a trust indenture of people. And then I went and discovered the corp. I looked for the ran into and looked for the jurisdiction of the corp, like UCC 93078 says. The United States is exclusively in the District of Columbia. And I'm like, okay, then what does that make the United States of America? And that's coast to coast. And I started thinking, so we have a corporation running America. What does that mean? And I started looking up some case sites. And, back in 2009 and 10, I got involved in um, what I thought was craziness at the time, but I really wanted to re-inhabit the republic, and we did it. And there's about 25,000 people across the nation did it in 2012, and we've been holding strong and just waiting for the people to wake up. But one of the things I realized about republic is it's yeah, you have an entity. It is government. It's right now it's a what we would call an interim government. It's not acting. And we're waiting for the people to come into republic. Um, and on the 17th of October here, I'm going to be speaking at a republic event in Colorado. Um, in front of a bunch of people. I'm excited about that. But my main topic of conversation is what people think of as republic and what republic is two entirely different things. And a lot of people think that Donald J. Trump can go and sign an executive order and then make everybody back in republic. And that is simply false. And so my narrative of bringing the Supreme Court rulings to the people, and really why I wrote this book, was to show them our God-given unalienable right is to be a slave or it's to be free. And we just don't know what U.S. citizen is and what it isn't. And our founders were not U.S. citizens; they were state of the Union citizens. And a U.S. citizen is a subclass, basically job for the United States to which you're holding stock in the company. And if that company is bankrupt, you're liable, and you are the collateral and the liability for the debt of that corporation, literally in law. And so I show people probably 30 or 40 case sites, meaning Supreme Court rulings that are shepherdized in law today, on why I'm able to do what I do. And I take people from being US citizens to being state citizens, full passports, full recognition by the United States, outside of the jurisdiction of the United States, and much to be like a diplomat operating on this land and 100% free, without the sovereign citizen mentality. We're not going up into the hills and burning our driver's licenses and doing drugs and stuff. We're just we one thing that I've learned is contract law, and I understand what it takes to create contracts, whether they want to create a contract or not, through an administrative process. And we literally have freed tens of thousands of people. And then we moved into the business sector in the mid 2015s and started moving businesses into the private. And we've been on just this platform of freedom, and what republic truly is, which it's not what a lot of people think. It's a very personal thing. It's a very independent thing. And like Ben Franklin said it the best when that woman approached him, said, "What kind of government have you given us, sir?" And he says, "A republic,
Yeah,
if
if you
you
can
can
keep
keep
it.
it." And it's not if the large people at large can keep it, it's you independently can keep it. And so what people have done is they forged relationships for a subclass citizen known as the 14th Amendment surety slave to a corporation, literally, and I can prove that in law. And that's their God-given unalienable right is to contract. Read the Constitution. They have that God-given unalienable right. It's a private right to contract. Man's right to contract with another man is absolute. And so if he wants to have a subclass citizenship for a benefit of being a driver, for the benefit of being a voter, for the benefit of paying taxes, you're allowed to do that. And unfortunately, it's been presented to us inaccurately as if it's a requirement, and it's not. It's kind of like the COVID vaccine. It's kind of like, these things that, yes, it's been approved. No, it's not. You are forced to take it or you're going to get fired. No, you're not. Kind of a thing. Stand 6 feet apart or you're gonna go to jail. No, you're not. It's all these requirements that were really conditions placed on the people, and unfortunately, we fall for the scam. I know that's a mouthful, but I
No,
wanted to get that all on the table so we
you're
can pick the
speaking
area
my
you want to
language here,
discuss
man.
first.
That's great. I love it. You know, this I think right now is in our current state, like this is the most people have been, like, aware of the problems that we're dealing with in my lifetime. When I was a kid, like, nobody paid attention to politics. I didn't care about politics. I knew that the state hated me and hated my existence, but I didn't really know
Me
why.
too.
It was just, like, one of those things that was a given. It was inevitable, like, it was just this big nebulous thing that, you know, I I didn't really know how to put my finger on it. I didn't understand a lot of the things that you're talking about. I didn't understand, what government is and what it isn't. And, you know, one of the things that's frustrating to me about what is going on right now is like you mentioned with, a lot of people that do realize the trouble that we're in and do see the problems that we're dealing with are kind of asleep at the wheel because they feel like Donald Trump is their savior and he's going to do everything and he's going to just fix everything, make America great again, right? And you can see
That's
like
BS.
every time he signs an EO, you've got some podunk judge from the middle of nowhere coming in and shooting him down and he's not all even capable of doing a lot of the things that he wants to do because HR is coming after him essentially.
That's exactly you hit it on the head. I mean, the bottom line is with Trump, I would rather have him than the other,
Yeah, I agree.
but the reality is he's very limited on what he can or cannot do. And there's more to that picture that's being painted that a lot of people aren't realizing. And God bless Trump. I mean, I hope the best for him. He's leading us into a digital slaughterhouse right now for a lot of people that are not aware. And just like what the EU is doing, Vietnam just stole, all the money of all their people and told them we're going to go digital. You're not going to get your money back. They closed millions of bank accounts, and I've firsthand affirmed this with a Vietnamese friend
Wow,
who
I didn't
called their
know that.
family and said, "Yeah, this is going on right now." And they're like, "Oh my God!" Well, the UK is doing the same thing. They're going to slap the door shut on you're not going to have a job unless you have a digital ID.
Yeah, and then they'll
And
arrest you if you say something about it on the internet.
well, you're not, yeah, it's 2 years in prison if you're a Christian praying, but you can be a Muslim and you could have your rug out in the middle of the street and you're not going to get arrested. It's like a double standard across the board. So this is what I do know. I mean, I know that Agenda 2030 exists. I don't need to believe it. I don't need to think it's going to come into existence. But all the moves that are being made, even by Trump, um, are towards an oligarchy of people running the show through a digital ID platform and through digital currency. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm buying the crud out of digital currency, and I know how to store it privately, and
Yeah,
I've been
so do
involved
I.
in a lot of entities, if you will, that have showed me next level things on how to hold and process and make sure that I'm a private security holder versus a public key holder. And there's absolutely differences, but we're moving to that age where in a digital idea, if you're not 100% private, you're screwed legally, but you also have to have money. And you got to be able to have a chauffeur or be willing to drive without a license because you're not going to have one. You're not going to be able to get one unless you conform. You're not going to be able to have a bank account unless you conform, but you can keep one locally in a hard wallet in your pocket. You're not going to be able to own anything. They're going to try to steal your crap. This is something that I'm a pro at from a standpoint of how to stop government theft. I do it all the time, and it's on how you hold title, and that's super important. Like as a broker, I've done thousands of loan transactions. I know loans better than anybody. I'm considered an expert in court. Um, Dude, they failed us so bad by not teaching us these things in school.
Oh, I know
Like
it.
an 1800 style trust deed is not the same deed of trust that we have today, or an 1800 style grant deed is not the same style that we have today. And let me say it to you this way. People are buying homes, but they're not. I am. The words on deeds are everything. A grant deed is got the definition of the style of vesting, the coinage used, what you're purchasing, and when you purchase a legal description, you're purchasing air. People don't realize that. We take deeds of people's existing homes and we purchase it from that existing home through a private foundation, unrecorded, unregistered. Number one. Number two, we use gold. Number three, meaning for the document. Number three, we use meets and bounds. Super important. That's land. And number four, you don't have to record the deed. You can, but you don't have to. When you record one of my deeds under a foundation, that foundation is tax exempt. Now, you're going to have to fight the county to get it to become tax exempt, but it absolutely is tax exempt, meaning no property taxes. Now, that's work, but in my book, I have many, and this is what does it mean to be an American. I have many people that have signed off and what they say about us. Um, I have cardio, heart doctors, basically cardiologists. I have NFL Hall of Famers. I have doctors. Everybody knows these people with 30, 40 million followers on a single account. I have some high level clients and people that think just like we do, that are trying to protect themselves, and they just don't know. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to buy an island, and I'm going to Costa Rica." Or I'm like, "Why? You have protections in the law right here, and you can even take land and record it instead of as a joint tenant. You record it fee simple absolute." And then when you read fee simple absolute in Black's Law Dictionary, it means absolute tenure in title. It's like a allodial title. So now you've perfected a deed, even on one you've screwed up on in the past, but you're still in the home, you still own the home. You can perfect a deed to where you convert it from air to land using a foundation, doing all the principles of what we teach. Now you've privatized the land and you've kept them from being able to just walk in and steal it because they have ownership rights over it because you own nothing if you own a legal description. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow that I'm right. No, not only lawfully, but legally, I'm 100% right. And so I'm taking deeds and I'm converting them left and right across America. And I'm showing people how they can now take the next step and remove it from the county recorder or remove it from the payroll, the property tax rolls.
Yeah.
And it is work. It is absolutely, they're not gonna give up that fight, but what happens is, for sure, when you place it under a private foundation, your asset protection changes forever. The private foundation is better than a will, better than a trust, because a trust has a executing moment where a beneficial interest is gonna be paid, a child or children. What you need to, and at that point is where they're gonna take the whether the attorney or the trustee or whoever is gonna take and divide the assets up, sell them, divide the assets up, and then there's a 1099 moment for the individual on the other side of the asset. And not only that, you have a 50% death tax, and then these guys are getting taxed on the other side. It's crazy. Why not take the asset, put it into a private foundation, create a what is it called, a standard operating procedure, import it into the foundation, and teach your children to operate within the foundation. The asset will go past probate, it will go past death tax, and anything you use a foundation to purchase will bypass capital gains tax.
Mm.
So I'm showing people how to get past capital gains, not only with their real estate, but with their crypto. And I'm showing people how to asset protect their crypto, but on steroids. And so what's happening very closely in the near future is a flip. And if your deeds aren't correct, or your status isn't correct, or your land isn't held properly, you're screwed. But not people that have dialed themselves in and understand, really what coming out of that structure means. And that means taking everything with you. Because when they put it in their name, they don't realize their name is owned by the state. People think that our name is our name. It's not the facts. And I don't, if you want me to delve into the BC birth certificate, I will, but it's a crazy thing what they did. One of the definitions is of birth is abandonment. They take the live born record. The mom is the only signer. That's a bastard child. Mother and father's listed on the document. At the signature area of the mom says three words: signature, parent, informant. Signature means one who can attest to the validity of the instrument, meaning she's agreeing to it being put onto 32-pound watermark banknote paper, the birth certificate, and being monetized. Number two, parent means judicially decreed guardian. Number three, informant means one who turns one over. So the mother in the signature line is moving from position of mother to agreeing to the terms of the security instrument, turning the product of the union over to the state and agreeing to being the guardian, all in one line.
Wow.
Fact Jack. Then they take that live born record, give it to the state. The state puts it on an abandonment certificate, puts it in the public. No father comes to make a claim. State owns the theoretical equivalent, which is the title of the child, which is why they think they can do what they do with stealing children through CPS. It's crazy.
Man, that's a whew.
And that's a really quick rendition of the birth certificate.
Well, that man, this is awesome stuff. A lot of this is over my head, but I have heard of some of these things, and it's one of these things where you hear about it, like, kind of on clips on the internet. It's like somebody will give you like a 1-minute breakdown of something similar to this, and it's like, "Oh, that makes sense," but I've never, like, really dug into any of it, and, like, I've heard about purchasing your property through a private entity rather than, like, as an individual, and I've also heard, like, it opens you up to be able to do certain things, and if somebody comes in and sues you, now they're suing a corporation instead of, like, a private individual, which is a whole lot harder to do. And, I don't think it's an accident that they didn't teach us any of this stuff in school because, like you said,
No,
they want you to be a shit on employee, podunk slave to the system. They don't want you to learn this type of stuff.
100%.
If you learn this type of stuff, you can protect yourself from these monsters. And that's the last thing they want you to do. They just want you to shut
Last.
up, watch football, and be prey, essentially. And, you know, one of the things that really pisses me off is, like, what they do with property taxes. Like, property taxes piss me off to begin with. Like, I think taxation is theft, so all taxes piss me off. But, like,
100%. We're in
I
agreement there.
I'm on, like, a fixed income. I don't make a ton of money, and I've got the county assessor coming in to look at my property this year and reassess what it's worth so they can raise my fucking property taxes, which is
Right.
just infuriating to me. You don't get enough
Yep.
from me already. I pay taxes on the house. I pay taxes on the property. I pay taxes with everything that I buy. I pay taxes on my taxes. My relatives are going to have to pay taxes on the money that I leave them when I die. It's like you can't get enough. Just back off.
What state do you live in?
Idaho.
Idaho?
Yeah, Idaho.
Okay. So there's a lot you can do, my brother. There's a lot
Yeah, I'm gonna
everybody
have
can
to read
do.
your
And it
book
just
because this is
we
this is right
fail
up my
for a
alley. I love
lack
this
of
stuff.
knowledge. And that's the number one thing. And yeah, on that note, this book has literally 30, 40, 50, I don't know, I haven't counted them, case cites, Supreme Court rulings about what I'm saying being truthful. And back in the early 2000s with, and late 1999s, they were fighting taxation and ex-IRS agents were coming out, and I know all these guys, and they were saying taxes are a fraud, this, that, and the other. Well, what was their response? They put him in jail. Well, I read those indictments. I've read a lot of indictments, and I've reverse engineered the indictments to make it so that our living in the private program deals with all the elements of how they get subject matter jurisdiction, literally. And so in 15 years of doing what I'm doing, not one person's got in trouble, not one person gets a door knock, and everybody is free and they walk away. And let me give you an example. The IRS, people don't realize there's first and foremost, I'm not even going to deal with the fact that they have a law, they have no law that supports it. Number one. Number two, the IRS has a thing called revocation of election within their own code. And when you read it, you can revoke the election of paying taxes. And it's built into the IRS code because they have to, because they're a voluntary organization. I want you to look at life differently from now on. Your DMV. Now, really hear me hard. And if you're out there listening, hear me hard on what I'm about to say. The DMV is a self executing trust. The IRS is a self-executing trust. That 1040, that W-4, that W-9, self-executing trust. They're the creator grantor. Read the back. They're the beneficiary. You're walking in as the trustee, the liablee, saying, I am a taxpayer. I am a US person. I will do all these things in this affidavit. You're voluntarily performing and executing a trust indenture. And if you don't, who gets in trouble? The trustee. The voter is a trust indenture. Firearms purchases, trust indentures. When I realize this, and I'm the only guy in the world that talks about it the way that I do, I realized, okay, being in the foreclosure business, meaning helping people on the other side for years, I've gotten houses free and clear. I've fought banks in 400 plus trials. I've been an expert witness. I've done all kinds of things. One thing I did really learn was how are they foreclosing in non-judicial states? What do you mean? Well, how do you take a home and transfer the title where you're not getting a judgment against the person in court? The way that they do it non-judicially is they use an administrative process. Letter, letter, letter. notice of fault, notice of default, notice of sale, sale, courthouse steps never inside the court, transfer, the trustee transfers the title from you to the bank, all because you ignored a process. People that don't ignore this process can keep their homes for years and years, and we can help them with that. I don't like doing that, but we're good at it. And I don't advertise any product for that, but we're really good at helping people. And we have a wealth of knowledge that we can point people to the right people to get help for foreclosures. But knowing that if all you have to do is interrupt the administrative process, what does that mean for anybody that doesn't? They lose their home, a new agreement has been made. And that's an administrative process under the federal rules of regulation that becomes a contract. I do the same thing against the DMV, the IRS, the SSA, the voters, all of them. I go to the DOS, Department of State, I get a passport. We flat out deny we're US citizens. We say we are state of the union citizens. We give our allegiance to the Declaration of Independence, and we show the case laws and case sites that support what we're saying. They rebut the presumption. They send letters. We need your social security. We need this. We're like, nope, nope, yes, no, yes. Passport. We get a passport. They cave to what we ask for. And it takes about 2 to 3 months to get the passport. But offer acceptance. Now, for us to get the uh what I would consider absolute proof of jurisdictional position is we order certified copies of the passport application. Anything certified by the federal government is considered evidence in court. Now we start noticing the DMV of the new agreement. We cancel everything on the original contract, remove our signatures. But because it was generally an unconscionable contract at the beginning, but because of fraud in the fact, and when we list it all out, that we are able to create a new agreement where we are canceling the known DMV agreement, and we do a notice of fault, notice and a certificate of default. And then after we do that with all the different agencies, we put it into the public and we serve them with what's called constructive notice. Here is the new agreement, and here is the fine if you step over any of our God given unalienable rights. And you can go after their bonds, you can go after all kinds of stuff, but nobody gets messed with. Nobody gets door knocks, nobody gets anything. The people that walk through our program are done with the IRS forever. The people that walk through the program, we show them how to asset protect their homes, their cars, their children, the important things to themselves. And it's only been that journey of what coming out of that structural system actually means. So we took what a lot of people really didn't know how to do in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. We took all of that and honestly because of the business that I've had to go through and things I've had to learn in business, like with the foreclosure stuff, I've learned how to affect contracts with the federal and state governments that stand in court to this day, and to where we can get our notices done and we can still hold a license in our wallet. At least now we can. There's coming a day where if you don't do the digital ID, they're going to take your drivers
Yeah.
away. They're going to try to take your job away, all that stuff. But for now, we can hold the driver's license in our wallet. And I don't need to worry about being pulled over. I don't need to worry about what my position is under the federal government. I know what my position is. And quite frankly, I look at my position as a diplomat because the federal government has no jurisdiction over a state citizen. How do I know that? I've read the Supreme Court. Super important that we get all of America to understand what state citizenship is because they are coming for the surety. And if it's not what you think, it's through Palantir, through
Yep.
whatever, China, through these back doors, they are coming for the surety. And I'm not going to be that guy.
One of the things that I like to explain to people is like, look at the way the government is ran. Look at how much money they print trillions of dollars a year at this point. Taxes are a social control mechanism. They don't need the money. Money grows on trees for the government. They can print all they want. Like
You just hit it on the head.
they take
If
it to
why is there
control.
taxes if they can print unlimited money?
it's a control mechanism. That's all it
It's a
is to
control
keep you in
mechanism.
line.
It's to keep us down.
Yep, it's to keep you in line. So, like, I've seen a bunch of the, YouTube videos of these sovereign citizen types who get their big binder full of case law and they get pulled over by the
Yeah, yeah,
cops
yeah.
for something and they're traveling and blah blah blah. So, like,
I've
what
helped a lot of
happened?
those guys change their mindset on what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got the right idea, but it sounds like they're going about it the wrong way and that there's a better
Totally.
way to
Why are you
do it.
dealing with the law enforcement officer on the side of the road about what right you have to travel? Why do you do that? He's been trained by the FBI that there's this thing called sovereign citizen, which is an
Yep.
oxymoron. And there's, by the way, there is not one definition because they won't allow it. They don't want it to be confirmed or denied in court, whether it exists or is false. All the Supreme Court rulings about state citizenship are done, and the last one was done in '03. So they don't want any more proof. They just want to keep it on the down. So they created this term that sounds like, tax protester. I used to go to church. I don't go to church anymore. I do church with God directly in my own way. Um, because I don't believe in many of the constructs of that anymore. But I remember being at an event and eight of the leadership of the church was sitting around me in a circle and they were asking my opinion on things but doing it in a derogatory form that they were trying to position themselves in a righteous form in front of me to be a leader over me, and instead it totally backfired on them. And they said, what do you what I talked about my lack of belief in paying taxes, and they brought up one stupid scripture and I'm like, that's not what that scripture means. And they got to a point, they said, what would you call yourself, a tax protester? They brought up Romans 13. I said, you know what? I've done a whole thing on Romans 13, and you don't understand that we are the government. They are there to serve us. We are not there to serve them. We are the government. They are to serve us. We are not to serve them. When you get that right and you have your placement under God correctly, you're going to understand we are under God directly. So Romans 13 means they're being disobedient by not obeying what I am requesting because my self governance request is absolute. And I reverse their whole thought process about Romans 13. And then one guy says, what would you call yourself, a tax protester? I kind of smiled. And I said, well, I'd rather be a tax protester than a baby killer like you. And then all the guys lit up because they know I'm right. What does your money go to, gentlemen?
Mhm.
What does your money go to? What does mine go to? I will be an account. You will have an account too. And I said, read Revelations 18:4. You guys are screwed, not me. And I basically got up and I said, "Thank you very much for the polite conversation." And I removed myself because I'm around the wrong set of people. And it's not that they didn't believe in Jesus or have a great, ideology. They just are indoctrinated just like every other societal person that is going to some shul school.
Yeah.
They are
Sure.
all indoctrinated on a belief system that really not a lot of people have done any self-reflecting or self-education on, and it's unfortunate. But I you know I don't believe, unfortunately, in the modern day church and their position in a lot of things, especially when they're all shutting down during COVID and holding services outside and listening to a government say you're not allowed to sing, you're not allowed to worship, you're not allowed to pray. And that was all a test, and the UK really is now implementing the byproduct of those tests from COVID, and they're arresting people for praying outside, for having thoughts, for posting derogatory comments about immigrants. Are you kidding me? Really? We can get beat up by an immigrant, and we can't have an opinion about that online? Really? So it's a sad state of where the world is. So I just want to correct what I can control, and I want to be a party of something like community of something that I know is going the right direction. And those are the only things that I can control in my life, and those are absolute. And the fact does remain, I don't get contacted by the IRS. They know what I've done is lawfully correct. I don't get contracted by anybody, and it's because I've done it right. and so is thousands of people under his advocates. They've done it right.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, as a young kid and a young man, like I didn't understand any of this stuff. I didn't care about any of it. It was just one of these things where it was inevitable and it was gonna happen whether I knew about it or not. Like, it didn't seem like it was, worth looking into for me, and, like, when I grew up, my family was Republicans, my grandfather was the only one that kind of, like, knew anything about the government, and he didn't really know much. He just, knew what Fox News told him essentially, and my parents had no idea, and, I remember asking my grandfather one time, like, "Why are we Republicans instead of Democrats?" And he was like, "Democrats wanna take away your dirt bike, they wanna take away your guns, they don't want you to ride snowmobiles through, you know, Yellowstone Park," and listed a couple other things, and I thought that was a pretty decent way to describe it for a kid, but as I got older, I realized, like, well, you didn't explain why we're Republicans, you explained why we aren't Democrats. And I think
Right.
there's a big difference to that, right? And I ended up at, when I was about 30, I got hurt and I'd been sitting around in the house watching TV for a couple years and got sick of, ran out of stuff to watch and started getting into podcasts and stuff like that. And I came across it's like more of a pamphlet than a book called Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard. And I own like 12 copies of that thing right now. I hand them out at Christmas for stocking stuffers because I want people to read it. I want people to realize like this what the state is doing to you, that it's a parasitic organism that doesn't need to exist. It doesn't need to do what it does. It does it because it is a parasite, you know?
Is that Murray Rothbard?
Yeah, Murray Rothbard. You'd really enjoy it. It's a short read, it's an easy read. It's right in the same vein. It's very interesting. He goes through like what the government is, what the government isn't, how the state preserves itself, and it just really breaks things down in a simple way that even like a kid can understand. Like if they would give you this to read in school, like we would Shul, as you said, I love that movie. You know, we would live in a completely different country because people would look at
Yeah.
it in a different light. Like, I've given it to people who have read it and go, I don't necessarily know if I buy what he's saying, but it sure is an interesting way to look at it, and it makes you think. Like, even if you don't completely agree with it, like Murray Rothbard was an anarchist. He hated the government as much as you do and as much as I do, maybe more. The guy was an enemy of the state for his entire freaking adult life. And a lot of people aren't ready to take that leap. They think that the government is out there to protect them. Like one of the main things that happens to people that kind of disillusions them that the government is here to protect you is they have some sort of run in with the police. They have some sort of run in with the court system. Maybe their son or their brother or their, cousin, whoever gets in trouble for something and the state just completely freaking railroads them and it's like, "Holy crap, what are they doing? This is a good kid." Like when I was a kid, me and like 7 of my buddies got arrested for hazing when I was in high school. We did like Dazed and Confused. We paddled the freshmen that were upcoming. Went on at my school for 30 years and everybody pretended like it didn't exist until one year it did exist. And one cop decided that he was going to throw the book at all of us because he wanted to be chief of police. And I ended up getting arrested for 28 felonies as a 17-year-old. And it's like, this guy's trying to destroy my life as a 17-year-old. They could have tried us as adults if they wanted to at 17, you know what I mean? And you throw
You
28
know,
felonies at somebody and you're not messing around. You're not giving them, "Hey, you need
how
to."
long ago was that?
This was in 2003.
Okay, no, wasn't it? I helped a kid in 2013, 17-year-old, in school. They were coming after him. They filed fraudulent charges. I looked at the mother had recorded a conversation with the officer. The officer had said certain things, and then he, after the fact, wrote a police report that contradicted everything he said to the parents. She had a right to record the conversation. She had placed the phone on recording and told him. And the bottom line was this, I said, "You're gonna write an affidavit, you're gonna get an attorney, and you're gonna file, charges with" then and I walked them through 2 or 3-hour process and, completely got the kid exonerated and the felony charges removed. The cop was dismissed, he's no longer allowed to work at the school. I
Good.
can go on and on and on.
Good for you.
But the bottom line is we fail for what we don't know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've had to learn a lot to get to this point of understanding. And I don't want to be in fights with law enforcement. I don't want to be in fights with the FBI. I know they're largely. I got FBI retirement. I got retired. Listen to me, retired feds going through my process. I just took on another cop 2 days ago. I love taking on cops. Love taking on feds. I got nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. As a matter of fact, one of the guys that helped write the book, his name is Ebby, retired Fed. Okay.
Yeah.
Young man, about 40 years old, went through it, completely walked away from being a high level clearance under the federal government, worked at the Department of State, worked at the Treasury and a bunch of other departments, Department of Justice, high level presidential clearance kind of a guy, helped me write this book because he has conviction. He understood what he was dealing with when he was there and now he's like, it's not like he doesn't like government. It's like they are all in collusion to take away the rights of the people.
Yeah.
And he is absolute. Now he's on his third kid with with no birth certificate.
Yeah.
Married in the private. I helped with the ceremony, and it's a huge win for me because I just got married for my second time. No marital license. I will never get a marital license again, and there's a lot of reasons
It's
for it.
amazing to me that people think that the government should have any say in who you spend your life with.
Right, and
It's
if people
ridiculous.
understood, I can literally quote the case site that the product of the union, marriage license union, belongs to the state, your child. So it starts with a contract between the parties, and then it moves to the birth certificate handing the product over. It's that insane what they have done to us.
And they make the
So
argument about whether gays can get married legally or not, and it's like, the
I
argument
don't
shouldn't be
care.
like who
That's
you can
between
and
them and
can't marry, it
God.
should be that the government shouldn't have a say in it, period.
Right. Period. Period. And you know what? The fact remains, I will help people understand my position. But I will never try to speak as to their rights to do whatever the heck they want to do. That is absolute. And so whether the government gives a license over that or not is a whole nother thing. And so anytime, I'm like, and trust me when I tell you, I have a relationship with the Father, but trust me when I tell you, um, you do not want to let anybody in between you and the Father on any of your affairs, any of your affairs. And so once people get that through their mind and start to understand that the government shouldn't be in people's affairs, um, life changes, life gets a lot better. And if the woman is feeling unprotected, the woman is feeling like common law marriage has an equal footing to real marriage in law. But the reality is for a lot of women, go get yourself instead of a prenup, get yourself an agreement together with your future husband of what you're going to do. It's the same thing as a prenup, only in reverse. He's able to protect his assets, you're able to protect your assets, and then whatever you do in that marriage union together is a part of the body. And that makes women feel comfortable and safe with doing this outside of a license or doing this outside of the government. Because the government is going to do nothing but bring a judgment into position and make that guy pay, unfortunately, and this is the fact, and this is nothing against any woman's right to go out and get married and have a great and wonderful life, and if they have worked for 20, 30 years in a marriage, they deserve some type of compensation. They also deserve to go back to work. But the reality is that what's happening right now is not fair, and they're purposely doing this so that the men continue to work and the women will now control the assets, have a wage or an income, and that man is never able to retire. It's all done by design. Give the assets of everything away that was done prior to the marriage to the woman. And I've seen this over and over, and this is outside of the scope, really, what we should be talking about. But you leave government out of the marriage, create a private contract between you and your wife, you and your husband, and get married in the private. And trust me when I tell you, it's cause for a way better life together, and you don't have to worry about anything.
All right, we got about 15 minutes left. A lot of this, I'll be honest with you, a lot of this is over my head, and I'm gonna need to listen to this one back again because, like, a lot of times as a host, I'm like thinking, okay, which direction do I go? And so, like, I'm gonna have to go and listen to this one again and read your book and really grasp what you're laying down here. This was an eye opener. I'll tell you, this has been awesome so far. What am I missing? What questions should I be asking? Take us in any
Good.
direction that you think we should be going in.
Well, we have done a lot to secure privacy for individuals. One of which, I was booted right now, I've got, 85,000 subscribers on YouTube, but I had a lot before in 2020. I was just questioning, why am I being forced to take something when I know it's a 7 to 10-year process of approval with the, FDA, you don't just get drugs approved
Yeah.
overnight, and, so I questioned it. I lost my YouTube account, so I went out and I started my own network. It's called His Advocates TV. It's on every phone. It's an app, and it's on Roku, Amazon, Android, Apple, Samsung, LG, every TV. Um, we're really just it's 5 years in the making. It's all set and done. We're bringing podcasters like yourself on. Excuse me. We're giving them their own channels, and they can do subscribers. They can do rentals. They can do subscriptions, meaning subscribers. You're gonna have your own subscribers. You'll have subscriptions, but it's a place where you can speak freely and not have to worry about what you're saying down the road. Meaning, we're not going to be as big as a YouTube. That's not my goal. My goal is to give a private platform for people that are like-minded to have a voice and to hear the truth. And the way that we structured it up and how we structured it up is completely offshore. And so there's really the legal way that we got together with Apple, with Roku, with Amazon, with Samsung, with LG was through private contracts. And our entity, His Advocates SSM, is not incorporated, not registered with any state. It's private, unregistered, unincorporated. And so there is no jurisdiction for the law to come over our entity. And this is going to allow for people to be able to see the truth on many different areas, whether it's guns, whether it's rights, whether it's, freedoms, protections, asset protections, what's going on in the world of crypto, whatever. We have a channel that we're going to be doing. We'll probably end up with 500 or 600 channels right now. I think there's 23 or 4. But we're going to give people a platform to speak from. And what's nice is I can walk up to somebody and I could, and so if somebody like yourself or another podcaster out there has a big platform, we'll create a app for you that goes directly to your channel. And so you would give away your app information to people. They would land on your podcasts.
Oh, that's
The
awesome.
app in the right hand corner, left hand corner is going to be His Advocates TV, and they can click on that and go get other content if they wish. But we're going to be supporting podcasters that are teaching the truth, and we're not going to be scolding them. We just ask that you don't teach violence and you don't teach how to overthrow a government
Yeah.
and pretty simple things,
Yeah.
you
No,
know.
I mean, you overthrow a government through education, not through guns and violence. Like the state has a monopoly on violence, you know? It's
Oh
not
yeah.
something
Well,
that that you're able to use in a, successful way. Like you have to know what you're up against and you have to learn. You have to, study and you have to realize that this thing is evil and it's out to get you and I hope that within my lifetime that this, that the Fed like I would say that my best case scenario in my lifetime is that the federal government would be somewhat like the Pope. Catholics, they don't really care about the Pope anymore. And it's like, what did the Pope? Oh, the Pope said something. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to continue to live my life. And I would hope like that's where we can be at some point. And, one of the biggest things like people need to realize is that the one thing we know for sure about the government, the only thing that we know for sure about the government is that they're not gonna stop printing money. They're just gonna keep printing money as
Yeah.
long as they possibly can until it goes belly up. And you've gotta protect yourself through gold, through crypto, Bitcoin. I'm a big Bitcoin advocate. And you have to set yourself up for the crash. And like I've got a financial advisor that thinks exactly the way we do. Like I went and like I got a settlement after I got hurt. I got electrocuted working on power lines in North Dakota, lost my hand, and I got a small settlement, but it was enough to where it was like I don't know what to do with it. I'm gonna look for somebody, and I went and talked to this financial advisor that's part of my one of my family members has him, and I remember we're talking about like just everything in general, and I brought up something about capital gains taxes on inheritance, and he was like, "Well, you might not like this, but the government has to make money somehow," and I'm like, "Oh, not definitely not going with you." You know what I mean? And I ended up finding this guy who's been great,
I
and
know,
like I
right?
think you gotta set
It's
yourself
like a
up.
criminal attorney looking over at you. If you happen to go to jail today, just know this: I'll be eating steak tonight.
Yeah, exactly, and you
Like,
know what? I was gonna bring
great,
this
you're
up
fired.
earlier, and I forgot, but, like, I have a family member who works for the Idaho Supreme Court, and, like, this was, like, a year ago, she was telling me, "Oh, we had this really interesting class today where they brought in this constitutional, rights, expert, and they taught us how to deal with people who bring their pocket constitutions in and tell us how things are supposed to run." So it wasn't a class on like, hey, these are people's constitutional rights and you have to respect them. It was, no, no, no. These people are going to come in preaching about their constitutional rights and you have
Yeah,
to know how to shut them up. It was
it's
just
called the
like, oh,
judge's
so
hand,
sick.
and the judges are trained on how to. They're chief wizards, really. But I can show you in the federal rules of criminal procedure where federal judges are listed in the book as trustees for the bankruptcy of the United States,
Ugh,
which means this: their sole obligation as a trustee is to collect from the individual that is the debtor, which means there are creditors and debtors in a bankruptcy. The banks, the families, are the creditors. The debtors are the people known as citizens. This is super important to get. So if you don't want to be under the jurisdiction of the United States, not only do you have to go through the process, but you got to stop being a debtor. And then you got to come back under the jurisdiction of God in law as a state citizen, which is really what a state citizen is. It's where you're self-governed. You're one of the creditors now. You're one of the asset beneficial interests for the United States. And people just don't know how important that is, especially in the future. And if I could say anything to your people, in the 40s, when the people were getting on the trains by the tens of thousands to be brought to what is being told to us, whether truthfully or not, as a slaughter for the multiple races of people, I want people to understand something. I saw a picture once of 25 plus thousand people standing around a train station, all being told they need to get on. There was 5 guards with guns. That's called a voluntary act. They voluntarily went to their own demise, whatever
yeah.
it was.
They were broken.
And that is everything that is being done today. It's all permission based. It's all, even all law enforcement. If I could ever tell anybody anything, is shut your mouth. Uh, Scalia, Supreme Court judge, I believe he was murdered, said 97% of all people in prison are there by their own omissions, admission of what they did, didn't do, whatever. They opened their trap
Yeah.
instead of having that Miranda right and being quiet. And so when people are coming up to your door, I drive a really nice car. Um, I look like a typical guy. I don't look like I'm a sovereign, quote unquote, but I deal with law enforcement very seriously. I'm very kind to them. I don't play the game of driving without a license. I don't need to. I've recontracted the trust of a DMV agreement, and I hand them what they need. And when they ask a question, I just say respectfully, I don't answer
Yeah.
questions. They say, "What are you, an attorney?" And I say respectfully again, I don't answer any questions. Do what you got to do, and I appreciate getting out of here as fast as I can. Thank you.
Yeah, and
And
they don't even know how to react to this because they're so used to just like, they don't even have to
getting
force
what they
people to
want.
talk. They just
I
people
need to
just
know if you
sing.
have guns in the car. You don't need to know anything.
No, it's none of your business.
I, yeah, I don't even say that. I just say, I respectfully don't
Yeah,
answer questions. It's a Fifth Amendment right. You don't
mhm,
need to self-incriminate. They don't need to to ask questions. You've pulled me over unlawfully. You put on emergency lights. There was no emergency. You don't have any right to ask any question over me at this time. I've given you what you've needed. Do what you got to do, and let's move on. That's it. And so I get out of there. I call 1-800-tickets, and they make an appearance and get me off of, obviously, I have only had to do that twice, and I beat both tickets in 30 years. But that's all I teach people is like, why are you dealing with the cop on the side of the road? He is being trained that you're crazy.
yeah,
Just keep the license until you can't have one. I can show you how to recontract with a license. I also show people how to sign non-assumpsit, which means that there is no agreement. I show people how to contract with the federal government, keeping all of their rights on those agreements. It's very important that we start being above reproach with what we say, what we do, how we do it. But this book, dude, it's $2.99 on Kindle. It's $17.76 for the paperback, and for the digital audio, I think it's $7, $8.
awesome,
Hour and a
man.
half, really
I'm gonna
quick,
I'm gonna read that. This
super
has been
important.
great, man. I This has given me a lot to think about. I I remember the first time I saw, like, a sovereign citizen video on YouTube, I was like, "Is this is there something to this? Like, is this guy?" Because
There actually is,
you
but
know what I
here's where
mean?
they
And
screw
I
up.
I didn't know because I had seen it once, and the guy seemed like he knew what he was talking about, and the cop
Yeah,
clearly wasn't having any of it, but I thought to myself, like, "There has to be something to this," and I remember asking, I have a family member who was a sheriff, and I was like, "Did you ever deal with these type of people?" And he was like, "Yeah, from time to time we did, and we just kinda, this." But as I'm looking into it further on YouTube, it's like, yeah, it seems like there's something's wrong. Like it seems like there's a hiccup here. Like they're not getting something completely. The state's clearly not going to want to deal with this, but I always felt like there had to be something there. So it's really
there is.
interesting
Let me read it to you.
to hear you do this.
Yeah, let me read you something really
Yeah,
quick.
for sure.
Downs versus Bidwell recognizes a dual system of governance. One, a de jure, which is lawful original under the Constitution, and a second is a de facto exercised by Congress over unincorporated areas. Okay. Um, Give me 1 second.
And just so people know, while you're looking for this, I'll filibuster a little bit. You can get Anatomy of the State as a PDF anywhere on the internet. Read that as well. Go and buy his book, read this thing, understand this, and really understand
Yeah,
what we're dealing with here.
it's just simple
This
education.
is
The
it
law is
is.
there
It's
to
very
protect
simple.
us. The law is there to protect us. I think the difference of us and anybody else that's ever existed at his advocates has a roadmap. We help you with the passport. You can travel. I just got back from France. You can go anywhere that the United States passport can go, and only your application is what dictates who you are. And so I'm a state citizen. I do not want to give money to the IRS. I do not want to pay capital gains. I do not want to pay death tax, estate income tax, state tax. None of that. The only taxes I can't get around right now are gasoline tax
Mhm.
and some state. Um, tax when I go to like a store to buy something, but I can get away with not paying tax at Home Depot, Amazon, different things like that, which is a lot of money when you purchase what,
Hell yeah.
40, $50,000 a year, whatever it is through those entities.
Especially
But
like, I've got a buddy who's a contractor. You buy a lot of shit at Home Depot when you're a contractor, and if you could
yeah,
get out of taxes while you're doing that shit, you're adding, 20% to your business essentially per year.
100%. And
You're
we show
saving 20%.
businesses how to operate in the private to where they don't have to pay any taxes whatsoever. I've got big companies operating private. The problem is they have to work with an LLC so they can continue to pay payroll taxes for individuals, but we show them structure and how to do it. This is an awesome opportunity for your fans, for
Oh,
people that just are
absolutely.
in the know. Read our book, please. Tell me what you think. Hang on after this podcast so we can exchange information, and
Absolutely.
that way you can uh, get any help, any support that you need, and maybe you want
Absolutely.
to do a follow up with me.
And aside from your book and your app, which I downloaded while we were talking, can people do, like, consults with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a paid consult, but if they buy anything, the living in the private after that, we actually credit that paid consult towards that. But we have guys that can walk them right into it as well. A lot of times people don't need to meet with me, but maybe they're next level or they have intricate questions. Um, Go to hisadvocates.org and join. It's free. We do have a VIP membership. The VIP membership is something that I meet with the VIP members every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. I talk about a lot of things. Crypto right now is hot on the
Yep,
bandwagon for a lot of reasons, as you know. I'm a big XRP fan. I am not a Bitcoin maximalist. I do believe Bitcoin is going to continue to go up, but I also have seen where I think it might be a trap. And if you want, I'll share that with you on the side. But
absolutely.
the XRP is going to 100x in the next 2 to 3 years,
That's
and with all the relationships that I've seen them put together and what they're, it's all done. It's all done. They are the only crypto in the world that went through the SEC and got to become listed as a currency. Uh, your members really need to consider getting out of their retirement accounts, getting out of their 401k accounts. I think that's
Yep,
going to be a trap. They're going to close those just like they did with
yep.
Vietnam.
I've got
And
a
they're going
couple
to bring
buddies
you
who've
up to
gotten rid
what
of
looks
theirs
like a
and
digital
converted over.
balance that's the same, but it'll be completely revalued and different.
Yep, I've got a couple buddies who have gotten rid of their 401ks and converted it over to Bitcoin.
100%. Yeah. And Bitcoin, I think, is going to go well over above a million, but I think it's a setup, just me personally. But you can definitely 10x on Bitcoin. But I want
I've done
to the
very
100.
well
I
on
want to
it,
find
and
1,000x if I can.
yeah, I'm gonna buy some XRP in the next bear market. Like, I'm kinda done buying right now because of the way the price is, and I'm gonna kinda wait for the bear market before I go in heavy
I don't
again.
think it's gonna come down, bro.
Oh, you don't
I think
really?
we're
Ah,
gonna
you're one of those
10x
too. It's
10x
it's
by the end of the year.
it's one of these things. Well, I don't really have a ton of money to invest right now anyways, so it's kind of like a wishful
That's all
thinking thing.
right.
But
It doesn't take
yeah,
a
man,
ton.
I'm always torn about like what's it gonna do? Are we gonna see a bear market? It's tough, man.
I hear you, my
Unfortunately,
brother.
I did forget to plug my computer in this time. I was rushing to get to the show today, and I do need to end it here because my thing is blinking at me that it's gonna go dead, and I want to be able
I gotta
to
get out of here too.
exchange info and
Do me
stuff
a
with
favor.
you
This
after the
is
show.
my cell phone number in the comments.
Okay.
Hit me up with your name and would love to chat with you in the future, my brother.
Okay. Let me write it down real quick here. I mean,
Yeah, and thank
stop
you for